The life of Deborah, a woman of courage and leadership. Deborah is one of the most remarkable figures in the book of Judges, a narrative that weaves together the stories of leaders who rose in times of crisis to guide the tribes of Israel. Unlike most of the other judges, Deborah stands out not only because of her wisdom and leadership, but because she was a woman in a predominantly patriarchal society. Her story can be found in Judges chapters 4 and 5. She embodies the ideals of leadership, prophecy, and courage, setting an example that transcends her time and still resonates today. This 30-minute narrative will guide us through her life and role as a judge, military leader, and prophetess, reflecting on how her actions influenced the people of Israel and what we can learn from her leadership. The background of the time. The book of Judges describes a chaotic time in Israel's history after the death of Joshua. The Israelites had entered the Promised Land, but they had not fully conquered it, leaving many Canaanite tribes within their borders. Without a unified king, Israel was governed by a series of judges, leaders raised by God to deliver the people from oppression and guide them spiritually. The Israelites frequently fell into cycles of sin, idolatry, and disobedience, which led to their oppression by foreign powers. Each time, when they cried out to God, a judge would arise to deliver them. By the time Deborah comes onto the scene, the Israelites had been suffering under the heavy oppression of Jabin, the Canaanite king of Hazor. For 20 years, Jabin's military commander, Sisera, had terrorized the Israelites with a powerful army equipped with 900 iron chariots. The Israelites felt powerless against Sisera's advanced military technology, and their cries for help reached God. Deborah, the prophetess and judge. In the midst of this turbulent period, Deborah emerges as a leader. She is introduced in Judges 4 as Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, who was judging Israel at that time. Deborah is unique not only because of her gender, but also because she held dual roles. She was both a prophetess, someone who communicated God's will to the people, and a judge, a leader who resolved disputes and guided the nation in legal and spiritual matters. Deborah's seat of judgment was under a palm tree, which came to be known as the Palm of Deborah. People from all over Israel would come to her for guidance. This image of her sitting under a tree rendering judgment is significant. It contrasts sharply with the more militaristic image of other judges, like Samson or Gideon. Deborah's wisdom, insight, and relationship with God set her apart as a leader who did not need physical might to command respect. She was a woman of faith and conviction, known for her ability to listen to God's voice and communicate it with authority. The call to Barak. At this point in Israel's history, the Israelites were oppressed and desperate for deliverance. Deborah, in her role as a prophetess, received a word from God instructing her to summon Barak, a military commander from the tribe of Naphtali. She called him and said, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Go, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give him into your hands." Judges 4, 6, 7. Barak, however, was hesitant. He recognized Deborah's authority as a prophetess and leader, and instead of taking the charge boldly, he replied, "If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go." Judges 4:8. This response shows Barak's respect for Deborah's leadership and perhaps his reliance on her connection with God. He may have lacked confidence in his own ability to lead the battle, but he knew that with Deborah by his side, God's favor would be with them. Deborah agreed to go, but she warned Barak that because of his hesitation, "The honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." Judges 4:9. Despite this, Barak gathered the army, and they prepared for battle. The battle against Sisera. With Deborah by his side, Barak led 10,000 men from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun to Mount Tabor. True to his word, God drew Sisera and his army to the Kishon River. As the Canaanite forces with their iron chariots approached, Deborah spoke with the calm authority of someone who knew God's will. "Go. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" Judges 4:14. The battle that followed was not simply a clash of swords and spears. The Bible hints that divine intervention played a critical role in Israel's victory. In Judges 5, Deborah's Song of Triumph, often referred to as the Song of Deborah, suggests that God sent a mighty rainstorm, turning the battlefield into a quagmire. Sisera's iron chariots, once the source of his military strength, became a liability, stuck in the mud, rendering his forces vulnerable. Barak's troops routed the Canaanites, and Sisera was forced to flee on foot. Barak pursued the enemy, but the climax of Sisera's downfall came not on the battlefield, but in a tent, far from the fight. Jael and the fulfillment of Deborah's prophecy. As Sisera fled, he sought refuge in the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, a man who was neutral in the conflict between the Canaanites and Israelites. Jael welcomed Sisera into her tent, offered him milk to drink, and gave him a place to rest. Sisera, exhausted from the battle, trusted Jael and fell asleep. However, Jael had other plans. Once Sisera was asleep, Jael took a tent peg and a hammer, and she drove the peg through Sisera's temple, killing him instantly. When Barak arrived in pursuit, Jael led him to where Sisera lay dead, fulfilling Deborah's earlier prophecy that a woman would claim the victory. The Song of Deborah. Following the victory over Sisera and the Canaanites, Deborah and Barak composed a song to commemorate the event, recorded in Judges 5. The Song of Deborah is one of the oldest examples of Hebrew poetry, and it not only celebrates the victory, but also provides insight into the battle and the participants. Deborah is called a mother in Israel in this song, a title that speaks to her nurturing, guiding role in the nation. The song praises those who responded to the call to battle and condemns those tribes who refused to join the fight. It also celebrates Jael's courage in slaying Sisera, giving her a place of honor among the women of Israel. The song reflects Deborah's deep understanding of God's power and justice, and it concludes by declaring, "So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but may those who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength." Judges 5:31. After the victory, the land had peace for 40 years, a testament to Deborah's successful leadership and her role in securing Israel's future. Conclusion. Lessons from Deborah's life. Deborah's life is an extraordinary testament to the power of faith, courage, and leadership. She broke barriers in her society, not by challenging them directly, but by embodying the virtues of wisdom, humility, and obedience to God's call. She led not through force or domination, but through her connection to God and her willingness to act when others hesitated. Her story teaches us that true leadership is not about physical power or dominance. It is about wisdom, discernment, and a willingness to step into the roles God calls us to, regardless of societal expectations. Deborah's partnership with Barak also highlights the importance of collaboration, where leadership is shared, and the strength found in unity. Most of all, Deborah's story reminds us that God often works through unlikely individuals, people who might not fit the traditional mold of leadership but are willing to be used by Him for great purposes. Her life serves as an example of how faith and action, when combined, can lead to extraordinary outcomes, even in the face of overwhelming odds.